She saw everyone ignore the Mafia boss's autistic son, until she asked him to dance. Full story. Slow zoom on a lonely figure in a tuxedo. Background noise of a party fading into a high-pitched ring. Then silence. Everyone at the gala knew the rule. You kiss the ring of Silas Drake, but you pretend his son, Gabriel, doesn't exist. They called him broken. They called him a liability. They treated him like a piece of furniture in a room full of sharks. But Harper Vaughan didn't care about the unwritten rules of the underworld. She just saw a man who was drowning in plain sight. When she crossed that ballroom floor, she thought she was just offering a dance. She didn't realize she was pulling the pin on a grenade that would blow the entire crime family apart. This is The Silent Waltz, a story about power, perception, and the dangerous consequences of noticing the invisible man. The chandeliers of the Hotel Valerius didn't sparkle. They glared. They were massive constellations of crystal suspended above a floor of polished marble, casting a harsh, interrogating light on the 300 souls gathered below. To the casual observer, the annual Drake Charity Gala was the pinnacle of Manhattan sophistication. To Harper Vaughan, standing near the service entrance with a tray of untouched champagne flutes, it looked like a tank of piranhas wearing Armani. Harper adjusted the collar of her black server's uniform. It was tight around the neck, stifling, much like the debts that had forced her into high-end catering after the orchestra lost its funding. She wasn't supposed to be observing. She was supposed to be invisible. Serve the wine, clear the glass, don't make eye contact. That was the mantra. But Harper had an affliction, one that had made her a brilliant cellist and a terrible waitress. She noticed everything. She noticed that the senator in the corner was sweating despite the aggressive air conditioning. She noticed that the security detail by the exits checked their watches in synchronized 10-minute intervals. And, most pressingly, she noticed the man sitting alone at table 9. Table 9 was in the dead zone, close enough to the head table to suggest family connection, but far enough away to imply shame. The man was young, perhaps late 20s, with hair the color of midnight ink and a jawline that could cut glass. He was dressed in a tuxedo that cost more than Harper's tuition, tailored to perfection, yet he wore it like a straitjacket. He was staring intently at the linen tablecloth, his left hand tapping a rhythmic, silent sequence against the silver knife. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. "Don't look at him," a voice hissed in Harper's ear. It was Marco, the floor manager, a man whose anxiety manifested as micromanagement. He grabbed a glass from her tray. "Refill table 4, now." "Who is he?" Harper asked, keeping her voice low, her eyes not leaving table 9. "That," Marco whispered, leaning in with the gossip-hungry desperation of the staff, "is Gabriel Drake, Silas Drake's son." "The boss's son?" Harper frowned. Silas Drake was holding court at the center of the room, a lion of a man with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his predatory eyes. He was surrounded by laughter, sycophants, and power. "Why is he sitting alone?" "Because he's difficult," Marco sneered slightly, wiping a smudge from a glass. "Autistic, or something. Silas keeps him around for image, but nobody talks to him. He doesn't talk back. He just counts. It makes the associates nervous. He's a liability. Now move." Marco shoved her gently toward the senator's table, but Harper's feet felt heavy. She moved through the crowd, dodging silk gowns and spilled secrets, but her magnetic north remained table 9. She watched the interactions, or the lack thereof. A woman in a red dress brushed past Gabriel, her purse knocking his wine glass. The wine sloshed, threatening to stain the white linen. Gabriel flinched, a sharp, violent jerk of his shoulder, and his tapping rhythm sped up. The woman didn't apologize. She didn't even look down. She simply corrected her path and kept walking, as if she had bumped into a statue. It was cruel. It wasn't the overt cruelty of a playground bully. It was the sophisticated, freezing cruelty of high society, erasure. They were deleting him from the room. Harper served the champagne to the sweating senator, her mind racing. She knew that look on Gabriel's face. She had seen it in the mirror during her first solo recital, the overwhelming sensory input, the desire for the floor to open up and swallow the noise. He wasn't difficult. He was drowning in the acoustics of the room, the clatter of silverware, the roar of conversation, the screech of chairs. It must have been a cacophony to him. Silas Drake stood up at the head table, tapping a spoon against his glass. The room fell into a terrified silence. "My friends," Silas boomed, his voice a rich baritone. "Family. Tonight we celebrate prosperity. We celebrate legacy." At the word legacy, Silas didn't look at his son. He looked at his capo-regime, a scarred man named Victor, who stood by his right hand. Gabriel didn't look up either. He just kept tapping. 1, 2, 1, 2. Harper felt a surge of indignation, hot enough to burn her throat. She gripped her tray. She shouldn't. She really, really shouldn't. She needed this job. She needed the tips. But the band struck up a waltz. Shostakovich. It was a complex, swirling piece, slightly discordant, full of tension. The floor began to fill with couples. Gabriel remained frozen, his eyes squeezed shut now. He was rocking slightly. The change in auditory texture, from chatter to orchestral swelling, was overloading him. Harper set her tray down on an empty busing station. She smoothed her apron, then thought better of it. She untied the apron, dropping it on the stack of dirty napkins. She wasn't a waitress right now. She was a musician recognizing a discord that needed resolution. She walked across the floor. The distance felt like miles. She could feel the eyes of the security detail tracking her unauthorized movement. She wasn't wearing a gown. She was in black slacks and a button-down shirt, stark against the sea of color. She reached table 9. Gabriel didn't open his eyes. His hand was vibrating against the knife now. "The time signature changes in the second bar," Harper said softly. Gabriel's hand stopped. He didn't look up, but his head tilted slightly to the right. "It's a waltz number 2, Harper continued, her voice steady, pitching it below the frequency of the violins. "But the conductor is rushing the tempo. He's taking it at an allegro when it should be moderato." Slowly, painfully slowly, Gabriel Drake opened his eyes. They were grey. Not a soft, cloudy grey, but the sharp, piercing grey of a storm front. They lacked the social glazing most people had. They were raw, taking in every pixel of her face. He looked at her collarbone, then her ear, then finally, fleetingly, her eyes. 148 beats per minute, Gabriel said. His voice was a low rasp, unused. "It should be 135. Harper smiled, a genuine small thing. "Exactly. It's chaotic. It makes you want to crawl out of your skin." Gabriel blinked. "Yes. I can help with the rhythm," Harper said. She didn't offer a hand to shake. She knew from her cousin that touch could be electric, unwanted. Instead, she offered a choice. If you move to the music, the noise becomes part of the pattern. It stops attacking you. She extended her hand, palm up, hovering over the table, not touching him. "Dance with me? We can correct the tempo." The room seemed to inhale. At the head table, Silas Drake had stopped mid-laugh. Victor, the second in command, had a hand inside his jacket. Marco, the manager, was hyperventilating by the kitchen doors. A waitress was asking the ghost to dance. Gabriel looked at her hand. He looked at the exit. Then he looked at his father, who was staring with an unreadable expression. Gabriel's jaw tightened. He stood up. He was taller than she expected, looming over her. The scent of sandalwood and expensive, sterile soap washed over her. He didn't take her hand immediately. He looked at the space between them, calculating. Then, with the precision of a surgeon, he placed his hand on her waist, his touch firm but distant, and took her other hand. 135 beats, Gabriel whispered. Lead me. The moment they stepped onto the dance floor, the atmosphere in the ballroom shifted from a party to a tribunal. The other couples parted like oil repelled by water, creating a wide, terrified circle around them. Harper felt the weight of 300 stares, but she focused entirely on the man in her arms. Gabriel was stiff, his muscles coiled tight as steel cables. He wasn't looking at her. His gaze was fixed on a point over her left shoulder, scanning the room. Breathe, Harper whispered. Step, slide, step. Follow the cello, not the violins. The cellist is the only one keeping time. Gabriel moved. He didn't move like the others. There was no social grace, no fluid, practiced ease of the debutante class. His movement was geometric, precise, mathematical. He stepped exactly where he needed to, covering distance with an efficiency that was almost predatory. "You are not a server," Gabriel said. It wasn't a question. He spun her, a sharp, exact rotation. "I am tonight," Harper replied, breathless as he corrected her posture with a shift of his grip. "No. Your calluses are on the tips of your fingers on the left hand, and the bow grip mark on the right index. You play strings." "Cello," she admitted. "Former cellist." "There is no former. You are currently counting the measure." Gabriel missed a beat, his foot faltering, as a waiter dropped a tray near the kitchen. The crash echoed. Gabriel flinched violently, his grip on her hand tightening to the point of pain. He stopped moving. The murmurs in the room rose instantly. "Look at him. He's cracking. A freak." Harper saw the panic rising in his grey eyes, the way his pupils were dilating, swallowing the iris. He was about to bolt. "Gabriel," she said, her voice sharp, commanding. She stepped into his space, breaking the social distance, creating a barrier between him and the room with her own body. "Look at me. Ignore the noise." The crash was just a staccato note, part of the song. Integrate it. He looked down at her. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Too much input. The patterns are broken. "Make a new pattern," she challenged him. "Count my steps. 1, 2, 3. She forced the movement, stepping back, pulling him with her. He stumbled, then caught the rhythm again. 1, 2, 3. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice strained. "Harper." "Harper," he repeated, tasting the word. Asymmetrical name. 2 syllables. Hard consonants. "Gabriel," she counted. 3 syllables. Biblical. Heavy. For the first time, a flicker of something human crossed his face. Not a smile, but a loosening of the tension around his eyes. "My father is watching. Let him watch. He thinks I am broken." "He's wrong," Harper said, spinning out and coming back in. "You're just tuned to a different frequency. High fidelity in a lo-fi world." Gabriel actually looked at her then, really looked at her, with an intensity that made her knees weak. It wasn't gratitude. It was shock. "You see it?" "I see you," she whispered. The music swelled to a crescendo. The other dancers had stopped entirely now. They were just spectators to this bizarre, rigid, yet strangely beautiful performance. The broken son of Silas Drake was moving across the floor with a waitress, executing a perfect box step, his face a mask of intense concentration. As the song ended, Gabriel didn't let go immediately. He held the final pose, his chest heaving slightly against hers. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. Then, slow clapping began. It was Silas Drake. The Don stood up, clapping slowly, rhythmically. The rest of the room, terrified to be out of step with the boss, hurriedly joined in. The applause grew, a thunderous, fake wave of approval. Gabriel dropped his hands from Harper as if he had been burned. The connection was severed. The wall was back up. He stepped back, straightening his jacket, checking his cuffs. 1, 2. 1, 2. Thank you, he said, his voice void of emotion again. That was adequate. He turned and walked away, not toward his table, but toward the side exit, disappearing into the shadows of the hotel corridor. Harper stood alone in the center of the ballroom, the applause washing over her, feeling exposed and suddenly very, very afraid. She turned to retreat to the kitchen, to grab her apron and run, but a large figure blocked her path. It was Victor, the man with the scar. Up close, he smelled of tobacco and gun oil. "Mr. Drake would like a word," Victor rumbled. Now, the office Silas Drake was using was actually the hotel manager's private suite, commandeered for the evening. The walls were mahogany, the carpet deep red. Silas sat behind a desk, smoking a cigar that looked thick enough to bludgeon someone with. Harper stood in front of the desk, her hands trembling slightly behind her back. She clamped them together to stop it. Don't show fear. Predators chase things that run. Silas didn't speak for a long time. He just watched her through the haze of smoke. You have nimble fingers, Miss Vaughan, Silas finally said. He gestured to a file on the desk. Her file. Harper's blood ran cold. How do you have that? I own the catering company, Silas shrugged. I own the hotel. I own the debt collection agency that is currently harassing you for your conservatory loans. Harper swallowed hard. I was just doing my job. Your job is to serve drinks, Silas said, his voice hardening. Not to make a spectacle of my family. Do you know how many doctors, specialists and therapists have tried to get Gabriel to engage with a crowd? To make eye contact? He doesn't need to be fixed, Harper blurted out. The words left her mouth before she could check them. Silas leaned forward, the leather chair creaking. Excuse me? He's not broken, Harper insisted, digging her fingernails into her palms. The room is too loud. The lights are too bright. He's processing everything at once. He's smarter than everyone in that ballroom, and he's bored, and he's overwhelmed. You treat him like a defective lamp, but he's a laser beam without a focal point. Silas stared at her. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. Then he laughed, a dry, barking sound. A laser beam, Silas mused. Interesting. Most people tell me he's retarded, or cursed. They're idiots, Harper said. Silas tapped the ash from his cigar. Gabriel is unique and essential. My enemies think he is my weakness. They think when I die, the Drake Empire crumbles because the heir is incapable of leading. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city lights. But Gabriel sees things. Patterns, numbers, discrepancies in ledgers that a team of accountants miss. He is the reason we haven't been indicted in 10 years. He anticipates the moves of the FBI before they make them. Harper felt a chill. Gabriel wasn't just the son. He was the brain. The computer. Why are you telling me this? Harper asked. You should be killing me. I considered it, Silas admitted casually. But tonight, for the 3 minutes you were on that floor, he wasn't counting exits. He wasn't hyperventilating. He was focused. On you. Silas turned back to her. My son needs a handler. Someone who isn't a bodyguard in a cheap suit. Someone who understands tempo. Someone he doesn't view as a threat. I'm a cellist, Harper said. Not a babysitter for the mob. You are a cellist with $80,000 in debt and a suspended license, Silas countered. I am offering you a job. You will be his personal assistant. You will accompany him to events. You will translate the world for him and ensure he remains calm. In exchange, your debt is erased. Tomorrow. And if I say no, then you walk out that door, Silas said pleasantly. And tomorrow, the catering company fires you. Your landlord evicts you, and you never play in this city again. It wasn't a choice. It was an extortion. Harper looked at the file on the desk. She thought of Gabriel's grey eyes, the terrifying intelligence hidden behind the panic. She thought of the way he had held her, like she was the only solid thing in a spinning world. I have conditions, Harper said. Silas raised an eyebrow. You are in no position to negotiate. If I'm his handler, I handle him my way, Harper said, her voice shaking but firm. No bodyguards hovering 3 feet away. No forcing him to shake hands if he doesn't want to. And you don't talk about him like he's not in the room. Silas studied her for a moment, assessing her utility. Agreed. Report to the Drake estate at 0900 hours. One more thing, Harper said, turning to leave. Is he safe? Your enemies, if they think he's weak. He is the safest person in New York, Silas lied. Outside the hotel, the air was cold and bitingly fresh compared to the stifling gala. Harper leaned against the brick wall of the staff exit, trying to get her heart rate down. She pulled out her phone to call an Uber, but the screen was black. Dead battery. Damn it, she hissed. The rhythmic probability of a battery failure increases after 18 months of usage. Harper jumped, dropping the phone. Gabriel was standing in the shadows of the alleyway. He wasn't wearing his tuxedo jacket anymore, just the white shirt, the sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that were surprisingly muscular. He was leaning against a black sedan, looking at the ground. Gabriel, Harper breathed. What are you doing here? Waiting, he said. He bent down and picked up her phone in one fluid motion. He handed it to her, careful not to brush her skin. For you. Why? Because the pattern changed, Gabriel said, looking at the street lamp. Victor took you. Victor usually takes people to be removed. I calculated a 74% chance you would not exit the building. I was waiting to verify the data. He had been waiting to see if his father had killed her. I'm okay, Harper said softly. I'm working for you now, apparently. Gabriel frowned. You are the new buffer. I guess so. It is dangerous, Gabriel said flatly, to be near me. The Moretti family is moving. I saw the signs in the gala. The waiter poured wine with his left hand, but served with his right. He was checking the sight lines. What? Harper stepped closer. Get in, Gabriel said, opening the rear door of the sedan. It is not safe here. I'm not getting in a car with you, Harper said, her survival instincts finally kicking in. Harper, Gabriel said. He looked at her then, and the mask slipped completely. He looked terrified. Not for himself, but for her. The waiter. He left 10 minutes ago. He didn't go to the kitchen. He went to the roof. Crack. The sound was like a whip snapping. The brick wall next to Harper's head exploded in a puff of red dust. Harper froze. Gabriel didn't. He moved with a speed that defied the broken label. He tackled her, slamming her into the open back seat of the armored sedan, covering her body with his own. Crack. Thud. A second bullet embedded itself in the bulletproof glass of the door Gabriel had just slammed shut. Drive! Gabriel shouted to the driver partition. The car squealed away, tires smoking. Harper lay across the leather seat, Gabriel's heavy weight pressing her down. He was breathing hard, a jagged, panicked rhythm. He was shaking. He lifted his head, his grey eyes wide, locking onto hers. He was hovering inches from her face. 160 beats per minute, Gabriel whispered, trembling. My heart. It's off tempo. Harper reached up, ignoring the rules, ignoring the danger, and placed her hand flat against his chest, right over his heart. Then let's slow it down, she whispered. The car sped into the night, carrying them both into a darkness from which there would be no return. The drive to the Drake estate was a blur of highway lights and terrified silence. The armored sedan didn't just drive, it carved through the night like a shark, escorted by two black SUVs that had materialized out of nowhere. Harper sat pressed against the leather door, her heart still hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Beside her, Gabriel was calm. Unnervingly calm. He had returned to his upright, rigid posture, his hands resting on his knees, tapping that silent, relentless code. The trajectory, Gabriel murmured, breaking the silence. Based on the angle of impact and the velocity of the round, 7.62 millimeters. Sniper, rooftop of the garment building across the alley. Harper stared at him. Someone just tried to kill us, Gabriel. Are you doing math? Gabriel turned his head slowly. In the passing streetlights, his face was a study in detachment. Ballistics is math, Harper. Survival is probability. Panic is an inefficient variable. I think I'm allowed a little inefficiency right now, she snapped, her voice trembling. You are hyperventilating, he noted. Carbon dioxide levels dropping. Put your head between your knees. It resets the vagus nerve. I don't want to reset my nerve, she hissed. I want to go home. Your home is compromised, Gabriel said simply. The Moretti family knows your address. You are in the system now. The car turned off the highway, winding up a long, private road, flanked by dense forest. Finally, massive iron gates loomed, parting slowly to reveal the Drake estate. It wasn't a house. It was a fortress disguised as a mansion. Modern, stark, constructed of concrete and vast sheets of glass that reflected the moon. There were no gargoyles or Gothic arches here, just cold, hard lines. The car stopped in a subterranean garage that looked more like a military bunker. Victor was waiting for them as the doors opened. He looked furious. Get him upstairs to the sanctuary, Victor barked at the security team. He glared at Harper. The boss wants you in the library, now. Gabriel hesitated. He looked at Victor, then at Harper. His hand twitched, reaching out toward her before pulling back. Harper requires hydration, and the B-flat minor sonata, it stabilizes her. Victor rolled his eyes. She's not a pet, Gabriel. Move. As Gabriel was escorted toward a steel elevator, he looked back at Harper. For a split second, the computer-like veneer cracked, and she saw the boy who had been terrified on the dance floor. Stay safe, his eyes seemed to say. Harper was marched up 3 flights of stairs to a library that smelled of old money and fresh cigar smoke. Silas Drake was pacing, a phone pressed to his ear. He slammed it down as she entered. My son says you saved his life, Silas said, not turning around. He saved mine, Harper corrected, her arms crossed defensively. He saw the waiter. He knew the pattern. Silas turned. His face was pale, the first sign of weakness she had seen in the Don. He saw a pattern. He always sees patterns, but tonight he acted on it. Usually he just watches. Silas poured a drink, his hand shaking slightly. He acted because you were there. Is that why you hired me? Harper asked. To be his motivation? I hired you to be his anchor, Silas said. The Morettis have broken the truce. They tried to take the head off the snake tonight. They missed me, so they went for the air. They think Gabriel is soft, easy prey. Silas walked over to her, his presence overwhelming. You start tonight. Your room is next to his. Your debt is gone. Your old life is gone. You keep him calm, you keep him focused, and you keep him alive. Because if Gabriel breaks, if he retreats into that mind of his and stops giving me the numbers, we all die. Harper felt the weight of the golden cage descending. Where is he? The West Wing, the sanctuary. Good luck, Miss. Vaughn, you're going to need it. Harper found the West Wing by following the sound. It wasn't music. It was a low, rhythmic thrumming, like the heartbeat of a machine. She reached a heavy steel door with a biometric lock. To her surprise, it clicked open before she could even knock. Inside, the room was plunged in darkness, lit only by the blue glow of 20 different monitors arranged in a semicircle. The air was frigid, kept cold for the servers humming against the back wall. Gabriel was sitting in the center of the screens, in an ergonomic chair, typing furiously. He wasn't wearing his jacket or tie anymore. He was barefoot, his toes gripping the carpet. Harper stepped inside, the door sealing shut behind her. The silence was absolute, heavy and pressurized. This is acoustic foam, Harper observed, touching the walls. Soundproofing. The world is too loud, Gabriel said, not looking away from the cascading streams of data on the screens. Here, I control the volume. Harper walked closer, looking at the screens. She expected to see bank accounts, spreadsheets, surveillance feeds. Instead, she saw waves, audio waveforms, spectrograms, visualizations of sound. What is this? She whispered. The family business, Gabriel said. He spun his chair around. My father sees crime. Victor sees violence. I see composition. He pointed to a screen showing a jagged, chaotic red line. This is the shipping logistics for the Jersey port. It's discordant. The rhythm is off. See the spikes? That's theft. Someone is skimming 4% off the top. It creates a stutter in the data. Harper stared. He was translating money laundering into music theory. And this? She pointed to a blue, smooth wave. The bribery payments to the precinct, Gabriel said. Harmonious, regular, a perfect sine wave. He looked up at her, his face illuminated by the blue light. He looked ethereal, like a digital ghost. You play cello, you understand. The universe is math, Harper. Math is music. People lie, numbers don't. But numbers can be hidden, unless you know how to listen to them. Harper sat on the edge of the desk. She realized then that Silas was right. Gabriel wasn't disabled. He was evolved. He was processing the criminal underworld as a symphony, finding the wrong notes that no one else could hear. Why show me this? Harper asked. This is evidence. This could put your father in prison for 1,000 years. Because, Gabriel said, lowering his voice, there is a new dissonance, a counter-melody. Someone inside this house is talking to the Morettis, and I need you to help me find out who. The next morning, the Drake estate was under lockdown. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter with German shepherds. The atmosphere was suffocating. Harper found herself in the unusual position of being the only person Gabriel would speak to. The maids were terrified of him. The guards mocked him behind his back. But when Harper entered the kitchen, Gabriel was there, staring at a bowl of oatmeal like it was a complex physics problem. Texture is inconsistent, he murmured as she poured herself coffee. It's oatmeal, Gabriel. It's supposed to be mushy, Harper said, leaning against the counter. She was wearing clothes provided by the house staff, a sleek grey business suit that made her look more like a corporate shark than a musician. We have a meeting, Gabriel said, pushing the bowl away. The capos. My father is angry. The meeting took place in the main dining room. The long mahogany table was seated with 12 men, the inner circle of the Drake organization. Silas sat at the head, looking like a thundercloud. Gabriel sat at his right hand, staring at the table surface. Harper sat slightly behind Gabriel, a notebook in her hand, feeling like an imposter in a den of wolves. "We lost another shipment last night," Silas growled. "Newark, hijacked. The Morettis knew the route. They knew the time." "It's a leak," Victor said, slamming his fist on the table. "One of the drivers." "We interrogated the drivers," a heavy-set man named Sal said. "They don't know anything." "Then it's the dispatch," Victor argued. Gabriel began to tap. Tap, 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 tap. The sound was quiet, but in the tense room, it was irritating. Sal shot Gabriel a dirty look. "Can you stop that? We're trying to work here." Gabriel didn't stop. The tapping got faster. He was rocking slightly in his chair. Silas sighed, rubbing his temples. "Gabriel, enough." Gabriel didn't stop. He was looking at Sal. Staring at him, Harper leaned forward, whispering near Gabriel's ear. "What is it? What's the rhythm?" "Syncopation," Gabriel whispered back, his voice strained. "Sal, his breathing is syncopated, and his left hand, look at his watch." Harper looked. Sal was wearing a heavy gold Rolex. He kept adjusting it, turning it. "He's nervous," Harper whispered. "No," Gabriel said. "He is transmitting. Morse code, tactile input." Harper's eyes widened. She looked closer. Sal's finger was tapping the bezel of the watch in a specific pattern. It wasn't a nervous tick. It was deliberate. The room was shouting now, men pointing fingers at each other. Silas was losing control of the table. Harper stood up. The movement was sudden enough to silence the room. "Mr. Drake," Harper said, her voice clear. "Sit down, girl," Sal sneered. "This isn't the coat check." "Gabriel has something to say," Harper said firmly. She put a hand on Gabriel's shoulder. He flinched, then leaned into her touch, grounding himself. "Speak!" Silas commanded. Gabriel stood up. He didn't look at his father. He looked at the air above the table. "The Morettis didn't intercept the truck via the route," Gabriel said, his voice monotone but loud. "They intercepted the weight distribution data." "What the hell is he talking about?" Victor asked. "Sal," Gabriel said, "your accounts show a discrepancy. Not in money. In time." Sal stood up, his face turning red. "You little freak, don't you dare!" "You visited the warehouse 3 times last week," Gabriel continued, reciting the data like a machine. "Tuesday at 0400, Thursday at 0200, Saturday at 0500. Each time the security logs show a 12-second delay in the camera feed loop, a gap, a rest in the measure." Gabriel pointed a long finger at Sal. "You installed a transceiver on the weigh station. It broadcasts the truck's weight. If the truck is heavy, it's a shipment. If it's light, it's a decoy. You gave them the algorithm." The room went deadly silent. All eyes turned to Sal. "He's crazy, boss," Sal stammered, sweat breaking out on his forehead. "He's autistic. He imagines things." "Check the watch," Harper said softly. Victor moved instantly. He grabbed Sal's wrist, twisting it behind his back. Sal screamed. Victor ripped the Rolex off and inspected the back. "Transmitter," Victor grunted. "High frequency." Silas Drake stood up slowly. The air in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Take him," Silas whispered. 2 guards dragged Sal out of the room. His screams were cut short by the heavy oak doors closing. Silas looked at his son. For the first time, there was no shame in his eyes. There was fear, yes, but there was also respect. "Meeting adjourned," Silas said. As the men filed out, looking at Gabriel with new wariness, Gabriel slumped back into his chair, exhausted. His hands were shaking. Harper sat beside him. She reached under the table and found his hand. She didn't hold it. She just pressed her pinky finger against his, a tiny point of contact. "You did good," she whispered. Gabriel looked at her, his grey eyes wide and vulnerable. The pattern is corrected. But the song, it's getting sadder, Harper. Sal was with my father for 20 years. If the bass line betrays the melody, the whole symphony collapses. 2 weeks passed. Harper settled into a routine. Mornings were for coffee and translation, helping Gabriel prepare reports for Silas. Afternoons were for music. She had found a cello in the attic, an old, dusty thing, and Gabriel insisted she play while he worked. He claimed the vibration of the C-string helped him visualize the stock market fluctuations. It was a strange, sequestered intimacy. They were trapped in the glass fortress, two outcasts finding a common language. Harper found herself watching him, not with pity, but with fascination. The way his mind worked was beautiful, and the way he looked at her, like she was the only variable in the world he couldn't predict and didn't want to. But the peace was fragile. It was a Tuesday evening. Silas was away at a summit in Chicago. The estate was running on a skeleton crew. Harper was in the library, practicing a Bach suite. Gabriel was sitting on the floor, his back against the sofa, eyes closed, listening. "Measure 42, Gabriel murmured. "You rushed it. You are anxious." "I'm bored, Gabriel," Harper sighed, resting her bow. "We've been locked in here for 14 days. I feel like a prisoner." "Safety requires confinement," Gabriel said. "Is this safety?" Harper gestured to the empty house. "Or is it just a waiting room?" Gabriel opened his eyes. He looked at her with that intense, unnerving focus. He stood up and walked over to her. He reached out, his hand hovering near her face. "You want to leave?" he stated. "I want to live," Harper said. I have never lived," Gabriel admitted quietly. "I have only survived until the dance." The air between them crackled. He was close, so close she could smell the sandalwood soap. The barrier was thinning. He wasn't the boss's son, and she wasn't the employee. They were just a man and a woman in a quiet room. Harper leaned in slightly. Gabriel didn't pull away. His breathing hitched, a disruption in his pattern. Suddenly the lights went out. Total darkness. The music of the house, the hum of the fridge, the distant HVAC died instantly. "Power cut," Harper whispered. "No," Gabriel said, his voice changing instantly to the cold, analytical tone. "The backup generators should have kicked in within 0.4 seconds. This isn't a failure, it's a severing." He grabbed her hand, hard. "Run." "What?" "They are here," Gabriel hissed, pulling her toward the door. "The Morettis, they bypassed the perimeter. The silence. I didn't hear the dogs bark. The dogs are dead." Harper felt a surge of nausea. "Where are we going?" "The panic room is compromised if the power is cut manually," Gabriel said, moving through the dark hallway with perfect memory of the layout. "We have to go to the garage, but not the main one." They sprinted down the hallway. Moonlight streamed through the massive glass windows, turning the corridor into a gauntlet of shadows. Thwip, a suppressed shot, shattered the vase next to Harper's head. Shards of porcelain rained down on her. "Get down!" Gabriel shoved her to the floor. 3 figures in tactical gear were rappelling down from the skylight at the end of the hall. They were silent, efficient killers. "They are blocking the stairs," Harper whispered, panic seizing her throat. "The laundry chute," Gabriel said. He dragged her into a linen closet. He kicked open the hatch. "It leads to the basement laundry. Go!" "Gabriel, I can't. Go!" He shoved her in. Harper slid down the metal darkness, landing in a pile of sheets in the basement. Gabriel landed a second later, cat-like. He pulled her up. They ran through the maze of the basement, past the wine cellar, to an old rusted door hidden behind a rack of shelving. "This isn't on the blueprints," Harper gasped. "I built it," Gabriel said, punching a code into a keypad he had rigged himself. For this probability. The door hissed open. Inside was a narrow tunnel, damp and smelling of earth. Gabriel pushed her in and sealed the door behind them, just as heavy boots pounded on the floor above. They were in the dark again, enclosed in the narrow concrete tube. "Where does this go?" Harper asked, her voice shaking uncontrollably. "The old boathouse," Gabriel said. "Half a mile away." He stopped. It was pitch black. He reached out and found her face, his hands trembling. He ran his thumbs over her cheekbones, checking for injury. "Are you damaged?" he asked. "No," Harper breathed. "Are you?" "My heart rate is 180, Gabriel whispered. "But I am functioning." "Why didn't the alarms go off, Gabriel?" Harper asked, a terrible realization forming in her mind. "Sal is gone. Who let them in?" Gabriel was silent for a long moment. "Sal was a distractor," Gabriel said, his voice hollow. "The real discord, the real error in the code. It wasn't Sal. Who was it?" "Victor," Gabriel said. "Only the head of security can disable the dogs." Harper felt the blood drain from her face. Victor, the man who had driven them here, the man Silas trusted with his life. "If Victor turned," Harper whispered, "then your father is alone in Chicago." "No," Gabriel said. "My father is dead. If Victor let them in, the king is already fallen." He took her hand again, his grip iron hard. "We are the only pieces left on the board, Harper, and it is their turn." The Neon Palms Motel was a scar on the side of the New Jersey Turnpike, a place where the flickering sign buzzed with the sound of dying insects. It was the last place anyone would look for the heir to the Drake Empire, mostly because it was the sort of place Silas Drake would have burned down on principle. Room 104 smelled of stale tobacco and cheap lemon cleaner. Harper sat on the edge of the sagging mattress, watching Gabriel. He was pacing. 7 steps to the window, turn, 7 steps to the door. Turn, repeat. He had been doing it for an hour. "Gabriel," Harper said softly. "You need to stop. You're going to wear a hole in the carpet." "The texture is wrong," Gabriel muttered, not stopping. "The carpet loops are inconsistent. The air conditioner is humming at a B-flat, but it drops a quarter tone every 30 seconds. It's maddening." Harper stood up and walked into his path. He stopped abruptly, inches from her, his chest heaving. He looked like a wild animal trapped in a cage. The sensory overload of the outside world, the sirens, the dirt, the chaos, was tearing at him. "Focus on me," Harper commanded gently. She reached out and placed her hands on his shoulders. He flinched, but didn't pull away. "Not the carpet, not the AC, just me. What is my rhythm?" Gabriel looked down at her. His grey eyes, usually so sharp, were clouded with exhaustion. He took a shaky breath. "Respiratory rate, 18 breaths per minute. Heart rate, decelerating. You are calm." "I'm terrified," Harper corrected him. "But I'm hiding it, because we have a problem to solve." Gabriel nodded slowly. He stepped back, the mask of the computer sliding back into place. "Victor, he has the estate, he has the accounts, he has the men. But he doesn't have the key," Harper said. "Does he?" She remembered the screens in the sanctuary, the way Gabriel saw the money as music. "No," Gabriel said. He went to the small rickety table where he had set up a burner laptop they had bought with cash at a 24-hour electronics store. "Victor thinks the money is in the Cayman Islands. He thinks he can access it with my father's biometrics. But my father didn't build the vault." "I did." Gabriel began to type. His fingers flew across the cheap plastic keys. "I encrypted the family fortune into a spectral file. To Victor it looks like a corrupted audio recording of a symphony. He will try to delete it to clear space. If he does, $3 billion vanishes into the ether. So we have leverage, Harper said. We have bait, Gabriel corrected. Victor is a predator. If he thinks the money is burning, he will come out of the fortress. He will come to the source. And where is the source? Gabriel looked up, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. It was a cold, dangerous smile. The Grandview Concert Hall, the place where you played your last solo. Harper blinked. The abandoned theatre in Queens? Why there? Because, Gabriel said, I know the acoustics, and if we are going to fight a war with just 2 soldiers, we need the environment to scream for us. He turned the laptop screen toward her. It showed a bank transfer initiated, $1, sent to Victor's personal account. The message attached was simple coordinates, 40.7589 degrees north, 73.9851 degrees west, midnight. Bring the king's ring. You're calling him out, Harper breathed. No, Gabriel said, standing up and buttoning his wrinkled shirt. I am conducting the finale. The Grandview Concert Hall was a rotting cathedral of sound. Dust motes danced in the shafts of moonlight, breaking through the collapsed roof. The rows of velvet seats were moth-eaten, and the stage, once the home of the city's finest orchestra, was stripped bare. It was 11 p.m. They had an hour. Gabriel was moving around the stage with a roll of copper wire and several small electronic devices he had scavenged. He was rigging the massive rusted organ pipes that lined the back wall. This building is a resonance chamber, Gabriel explained, his voice echoing in the vast darkness. If you hit a low C at 60 decibels here, it amplifies to 90 decibels in the center aisle. It's physics. Harper was holding a flashlight for him, her hands trembling. She wasn't a soldier. She was a musician. But looking at Gabriel, she realized the line between the two was thinner than she thought. He was composing a trap. What if he brings an army? Harper asked. He will bring a squad, Gabriel calculated. 6 men, standard tactical formation. He is arrogant. He thinks I am a retard with a calculator. He doesn't respect the variable. You keep calling yourself a variable, Harper said, stepping closer to him. You're a person, Gabriel. Gabriel stopped twisting a wire. He looked at her, his face smeared with dust. To my father, I was an asset. To Victor, I am a bug in the code. To the world, I am invisible. To me, Harper said fiercely, you are the only man who ever really heard the music. She reached out and brushed the dust from his cheek. Gabriel leaned into her hand. For a moment, the war didn't exist. There was just the silence of the old hall and the heat between them. Gabriel's breathing hitched. He looked at her lips, then her eyes. He was calculating the probability of rejection, the social protocol, the risk. Harper didn't wait for the math. She kissed him. It wasn't tentative, it was desperate and real. Gabriel froze for a microsecond, his body rigid before he melted. He grabbed her waist, pulling her flush against him, kissing her back with a hunger that had been suppressed for a lifetime. It wasn't a perfect, cinematic kiss. It was clumsy and fierce. He pulled back, gasping, his eyes wide. Heart rate 165. Dopamine levels critical. I cannot predict the outcome of this. Good, Harper smiled, breathless. Stop predicting, just feel. A heavy thud echoed from the heavy iron doors at the lobby entrance. Gabriel's expression instantly shifted. The lover vanished. The architect returned. They are early, Gabriel whispered. The tempo has accelerated. He grabbed Harper's hand and pulled her behind the heavy velvet curtains of the stage wing. Go to the balcony. Do not show yourself until I give the signal. What's the signal? Silence, Gabriel said. Victor walked down the center aisle of the theater like he owned it. He was flanked by 5 men carrying assault rifles with tactical lights. The beams cut through the dust, sweeping over the empty seats. "Gabriel!" Victor shouted. His voice boomed, distorted by the hall's natural reverb. "Stop playing games. I know you're here. I tracked the transfer." Gabriel stepped out from the shadows of center stage. He stood alone in the single beam of moonlight, unarmed, his hands loose at his sides. "You are off-key, Victor," Gabriel said calmly. His voice carried perfectly to the back of the room without shouting. "You are projecting from the throat, not the diaphragm." Victor laughed, a harsh sound. He signaled his men to fan out. They raised their rifles, aiming at Gabriel's chest. "The king is dead," Victor sneered, stopping 10 feet from the stage. "Silas had a heart attack in Chicago. Tragic. And now, the tragic son dies in a robbery gone wrong. Clean. Simple." "My father didn't have a heart attack," Gabriel said. "You poisoned his scotch, digitalis. It mimics cardiac arrest. I saw the purchase order in your encrypted expenses. You bought it 3 months ago." Victor's smile faltered. "You think you're so smart, freak? Where's the money?" "Unlock the file." "The file is linked to my heartbeat," Gabriel lied smoothly. "My pulse stops. The encryption key deletes itself. The money burns." Victor hesitated. He lowered his gun slightly. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Gabriel tilted his head. "I calculated the probability of your betrayal at 94% 6 months ago. Do you think I didn't write a contingency?" "Grab him!" Victor barked at his men. "Don't shoot him! Break his legs until he talks." 2 of the gunmen vaulted onto the stage. Gabriel didn't move. He waited until they were 3 steps away. Then, he stomped his foot. Hard. He stomped on a specific floorboard that triggered the mechanism he had rigged. A high-pitched screech, agonizingly loud, erupted from the organ pipes behind him. It wasn't music. It was a weaponized frequency, amplified by the hall's acoustics to a level that caused instant vertigo. The 2 men on stage clapped their hands over their ears, screaming, falling to their knees as their equilibrium shattered. "Now, Harper!" Gabriel shouted. From the balcony, Harper released the counterweight rope she had been holding. A massive sandbag, part of the old scenery rigging, plummeted down. It didn't hit Victor. It hit the floorboards directly in front of him. The rotten wood, weakened by Gabriel earlier, gave way. The entire section of the center aisle collapsed into the sub-basement. Victor and 3 of his men fell into the darkness with a crash of splintering wood and twisted metal. The screeching noise cut off instantly. Silence returned. Gabriel walked to the edge of the jagged hole in the floor. He looked down. Victor was groaning in the rubble 10 feet below, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. His gun was out of reach. The structural integrity of white pine degrades by 15% every decade, Gabriel said to the pit. This floor was laid in 1920. You were standing on a mathematical certainty. Victor looked up, his face bloodied, eyes full of hate. You're a monster. I am a drake, Gabriel said. Suddenly, a shot rang out. Gabriel stumbled back, clutching his shoulder. One of the men on stage, the one who had fallen to his knees, had recovered enough to pull a sidearm. He aimed again at Gabriel's head. No! Harper screamed from the balcony. But she was too far away. Gabriel looked at the gun barrel. He calculated the angle. He calculated the time. He had 0 probability of evasion. Then, a shadow moved. A single shot echoed from the back of the theater. The gunman on stage dropped, a bullet hole in his forehead. Gabriel turned, standing in the lobby entrance, leaning on a cane, looking pale but alive, was Silas Drake. Behind him were a dozen loyal soldiers. Silas walked slowly down the side aisle, stepping over the debris. He looked at the hole where Victor lay, then up at his son. "I told you," Silas rasped, his voice weak but commanding. "He's not broken. He's evolved." Gabriel pressed his hand to his bleeding shoulder. He looked at his father. "You were dead. The probability." "I knew Victor was turning," Silas said. "I let him poison me. Took a counteragent. Played dead to flush out the rats. But I didn't think you'd have the stones to take him down yourself." Silas looked up at the balcony, where Harper was staring down, stunned. "And you?" Silas nodded. "You kept him alive. Deal fulfilled." Gabriel looked at his father, then at Harper. He walked past his father, ignoring the blood seeping through his shirt. He walked to the stage stairs and helped Harper down. "Gabriel," Silas barked, "we have business. We need to secure the territory." Gabriel turned. He held Harper's hand tight. "No," Gabriel said. Silas froze. "What did you say?" "The money is safe," Gabriel said. "The enemies are neutralized. But I am done with your tempo, father. I am not your calculator. And I am not your ghost." He looked at Harper. "We are leaving." "You can't leave," Silas laughed, incredulous. "You're the heir. Who's going to run the numbers?" "Hire an accountant," Gabriel said, "or learn to count." He turned his back on the most powerful crime lord in New York and walked out of the ruined theater, hand in hand with the cellist who had taught him to dance. A montage of quick cuts. A sunny apartment in Paris, a cello resting in a corner, Gabriel sitting at a cafe, relaxed, no longer tapping, Harper playing on a stage, Gabriel in the front row, smiling. Silas Drake regained his empire, but he lost his son, and he learned the hard way that you can force a man to inherit a kingdom, but you can't force him to rule it. Gabriel and Harper disappeared from the underworld. Some say they're in Europe. Some say Gabriel is designing security systems for governments. But the truth is simpler. They found a new rhythm, a quiet one, where the only counting Gabriel does is the beat of the music Harper plays. If you loved this story of suspense, romance, and breaking the mold, please smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that being different isn't a weakness, it's a superpower. Thanks for watching.